We had some disturbances last night, so I think we got about 2 or 3 hours of combined sleep.
Isn't that weird? The how this realm, it doesn't want you to rest. It's like it finds a way somehow to just interfere. It's strange.
It's not always. I wouldn't say it's consistently interference, but at certain times, like as we talked about already, it's Super Bowl Sunday today, and I think at certain times in our lives as we're progressing, there are sort of like bridges that we need to cross, and it's like the energies know where the bridges are, and they go and they try to set up trolls, and they try to set up you know roadblocks and divert. They're like they set up a diversion that says, "Oh, go this way," but it turns left and it goes off the bridge into the canyon, something like that. It's some sort of nonsense.
Yeah, it does that.
Because it's not always. The interference is not like 100% of the day. It's timed.
Yeah, the timing.
Rin's back.
Hello.
What's up?
Hiya.
Hello, Rin. Nice to see you.
Yeah, and you guys as well. Hi, everyone.
Oh, man. We're just talking about how crazy energies are doing stuff. We didn't sleep last night, so we're both going to be kind of delirious on this show. Maybe.
So was your neighbours upstairs?
Yeah. There's a huge drug problem in Oregon, and I think it was just some meth head or crackhead or whoever. They just pace, right? And they were wearing some sort of boots, so it wasn't pacing, regular pacing, it was like clunking. And they were rearranging furniture and scooting stuff to one side then to the other side, and it's like piping directly into our ears while we're trying to sleep. So, and we were like banging on the walls. I was getting really mad. I was getting super mad. And I don't normally get mad. I'm very level for the most part. And I was getting really pissed off. And I was like banging the wall, yelling at them. Eventually, I got up at 2 a.m. and went to the office and said, we can't sleep. Can we have another room? So at 2 a.m., we were literally moved our entire crap to another place. And then that happened again with this new place. Same thing repeated itself, slightly different. So this morning we got up and said, can we move again? And we got an upstairs unit. So now we're upstairs and we'll be tromping on somebody else, I guess.
Oh, man.
Hopefully without the boots.
Yeah, so what were you saying about the energies? What are you guys experiencing?
Well, we were just saying how Super Bowl Sunday is some sort of confluence of energies for the dark side. So I know whenever that holiday comes around, it's going to affect us inversely.
Yeah. Apparently, it's a big opportunity for. I think they use the distraction for the child trafficking and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of that goes on Super Bowl, on the Super Bowls.
Probably. I heard stories even of, like, there are lots of children that go missing during the actual Super Bowl, like, in the stadium, that gets sort of covered over afterward. I don't know for sure. That's just rumors.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when we were staying at the rest stop for a little bit, there's posters in there that say, like, are you, being held against your will? If so, call this number and, we'll try and help you. So it's like it's just understood, apparently, that trafficking is going on.
Yeah. Very strange situation.
How do you know the hotel knows?
That's why they make you do your ID.
Oh, yeah. Right.
That's what she told me at the first one.
She said it was about trafficking?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Well, I'm awake.
Somewhat. We're somewhat awake.
Good to see you guys.
But we have sunshine coming into the window. It's a nice day today. Gotta take the little winds when they come, right? So the topic that I wanted to do today was identity. If you guys are down with that, we can launch into that one.
Identity, it's a fairly confusing one, I think. especially for people who've come here and maybe we had a task to do as a light worker or something like that, and there's major issues here, it seems, with nothing working the way it's supposed to. And there's an interesting guy that I've been listening to. His name's Cameron Day. The internet hides him extremely well. And he talks about something called the birth bump. And in the birth bump, essentially, is people who've come here to try to help with the unethical situation that currently resides on this planet. They are actually bumped from the timeline and family they were meant to be in, and they end up in like the worst possible family imaginable for their particular task. So if they're supposed to bring light to the world through a talent like music, they'll be put into like a military family or something like that, where they're strongly punished if they actually do what they're meant to be doing. Yeah. And I think that the dark forces here are very strong. What they really target is identity, like you're saying, and to do with gender as well. Mm-hmm. So they put, it's the fluoride in the water, but also the birth control tablets that females take, as well as the soya and other things, because men and women are diametric opposites to each other. Men have about 10 times the amount of testosterone in their bodies that women have, and women have 10 times the amount of estrogen in their bodies that men have. When you add soya milk into the mix, what's actually happening is that the testosterone level in men goes down, and then because women have so much estrogen in their bodies already, the soya milk, which is a phytoestrogen, actually causes the female body to produce more testosterone.
Hi, Omar.
Hey, Gary.
And then...
Sorry, Samir, can I interrupt you just for a moment?
Yeah.
I wanted to say hello to Anthony and welcome him because I believe this is his first time here. Can you hear us, Anthony?
Hey, guys. How you going?
Hey, Anthony.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you all.
Feel free to jump in and share if you want. If you want to just sit for the first one, that's totally fine as well. We're discussing identity today and whatever else anyone wants to pipe in with on Super Bowl Sunday. Ooh, Rin's going crazy.
Now, when you said identity, Gary, I kind of saw that you had posted a few like things around that, but I didn't really understand what you meant by identity. Maybe you could clear that up a little bit.
Yeah, I think most of us understand that identity is mainly a construct for purposes of practicality for our use, okay? And then there's for the so-called dark side use where it's used as a structure of containment and restriction. And I wanted to contrast that version of identity with the version that for us is kind of fleeting and ephemeral and comes and goes with the flow of whatever we're doing. And what are the points between both? Because we kind of need both. We need the straw man one, in order to financially survive and be able to eat food at this particular juncture. Hopefully not, at some point. And then we also need the other one to be able to be creative.
Oh, okay. I actually had a really long conversation last night with a lady in Romania, and very, very, very cool stuff. But part of that came up in the conversation, so I would like to share it now that I understand while it's still fresh.
Go for it.
A few sort of umbrellas first, and I'll try to make this as simple as possible. I always do, but sometimes I fail at that. So if I lose you, let me know when I'm done blabbering.
Okay.
The whole world is held together historically by a predictable social order, and that brings the layer of peace and security and predictability to our daily lives. And in the past, that used to be brought upon society through religious means and through ritualistic means before religion. Looking at the patterns in nature and the sun and all that, and following the way the crops would grow. But now, in our more fast-paced world, we have really no baseline for that. And when you increase the amount of information available to people to access, it creates a lot of internal discordance and entropy, because the mind now has access to process all of these things that it didn't have access to before. So, perfect example is the card catalog in the library has so many books in it, and you can thumb through it at your finger's speed and then find a book you're looking for. But on my ebook site, I have 400 gigabytes of books. That's like 100,000 books. And you can search for them with the search engine, and it finds them within seconds. And then unless you know what you're looking for, you're going to be distracted and read something else or get upset. So much in the same way, the governments of the world are trying to. They've been given the most impossible job, and it's self-appointed. They're trying to take the place of religion to maintain a social order and normalcy in the way that people ebb and flow throughout their daily lives and through their interactions with other people. And that's a really thankless and impossible job, and it's technically impossible, but they do a decent job. But where that connects to what you're saying is the straw man concept is a necessary meta container for a human to be managed in that system. And that system is not in the polarity sense that the system is a bad, negative thing wherein it controls you and it limits your ability to move freely through the world. No, system in this sense is actually a meta or above. It's like you're here and it's still here. It exists within your field and you interact with it in a physical, tangible idea kind of sense as you move around through the world. You file papers at the DMV and you say, yeah, that's my name. And then that little bit of information follows you around as you move through space and time. But what's really happening is that is like it's like a briefcase you carry around. And it used to be on paper, but now it's on computer. But those documents and that container and that straw man, that legal construct of your name in all capital letters is not anything other than a managerial system to help maintain social order and ebb and flow and normality in a very large world where we have so many bits of information floating around and people interacting and trying to do all of these things. And without that, believe it or not, within a week, most of the world will devolve into abject chaos and people will probably be looting and rioting and things.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
So that's one perspective.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, a super important component of the identity thing is trust, and that's also, you could say, is very important. They're all linked up. So identity is money, is the lack of trust. In a sense, that's not a whole complete description of it, but for instance, within family, when you're transacting between family members, you're not asking for identification every time. Like if your sister wants to borrow money, or if, someone needs your time for a certain day, they call you by a nickname, or they don't even say your name. It's like essence to essence communication. And the only reason that's possible is because trust has been established. So the straw man essentially acts as a replacement for that trust. And the only reason that works is because force is behind the straw man. So if there's some sort of disruption of trust or breaking of trust in a transaction, then you can go find a way to have repercussions on the person who broke the trust.
It's parallel. It works alongside it. But yes, absolutely about the trust.
Yeah. Rebecca, can you hear us or no?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
I just wanted to make sure that you were participating and not just here in name.
I'm active. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anybody else have any thoughts on identity?
Well, I was going to finish what I was wanted to say about what they're doing to our sexuality,
Uh-huh.
to do with the identity, and how they are altering the hormonal profiles, and then to top that off, so they're actually increasing the female testosterone level and lowering the males. As well, people are carrying radioactive devices in the form of so-called smartphones right by their groin area, or if they're right-handed, to the right side of their brain, which is where the creative functions, a lot of them take place. So that's not really very clever, but it's, that's because it's considered to be dangerous by the powers that be. Because if you have imagination, you can imagine your way out of a particular problem, and they don't want us to do that.
Maybe we should all start holding the phone up to the left side.
Yeah.
That way it can damage the cognitive function instead of the creative side.
Yeah.
But if you don't hold the phone up, then it doesn't really matter, but you're still in the near field of the microwave radiation from it. But you know what, Samir, it's the thing about the hormonal profiles is very accurate, but the thing about the
I hadn't finished
the
yet.
phone,
But
sorry, go ahead.
Well, because then they've got these stupid films where they have like 130-pound, very likely transgendered boy that is made to look like a girl, and she's throwing around, militarily trained men who are heavily armed and heavily armored, and she's throwing them around and beating them up, and it's giving women the wrong impression about like their role, because the woman's biology is basically more valuable than the men's, because in terms of if a catastrophe happens and you have like 100 people left and there's 99 men and one woman, they're going to be tearing themselves to ribbons to get to the woman, and she can only have 1 or 2 babies every 9 months. That's a problem in terms of population growth after catastrophes. But if there's one man and 99 women, then the problem with population can be solved a lot more easily. And so you combine effeminizing the men, and that actually weakens their energetic profile as well and makes them more susceptible to walk-ins and other technological influence, which they love doing. So feminizing the men is something that they're doing, and we have issues with our identity in that regard. I mean, I was in the park a couple of months ago, and for the love of God, man, there was a guy there, because the millennial men are, there's some issues there. So he was with his girlfriend, and he had flowers. He put flowers in his hair. And I was like, men aren't really meant to do that. You usually see the women with flowers in their hair, not the men. And I was speaking with the other girls, and they're talking about how this one girl, she was with this guy, and the guy said to her, "Take me," and it's like, so again, there's issues there, and this goes on to what Becky Barron was saying, that the masculine energies are weak, inverted, and made to be effeminate. And that opens us up to attack, because the male energies are meant to be protective. And then the female energies become quite malignant. And these guys know what they're doing, because in the court cases, what they've done in the justice system, They've opened up.
Fabian, we got some
A lot of
feedback.
interruption.
Fabian, turn off your music.
Okay. Sorry, Samir, go ahead.
Hello?
Is that?
Hello?
Yeah, the audio synced. You can continue.
Okay, so what I was saying was essentially it's a bait and switch. It's what they really love to do here, which is it's the classic diversion. It's, telling the Americans, oh, look, there's the dangerous Arab in the cave. He's coming to get your mama. And they've got documentaries with women in Montana and place like that in the supermarket looking for terrorists. From the dangerous Arab who's coming to get you, when what's actually happening, I think, and what's been shown, is that the Americans can be beaten militarily, and so say you're Mike Tyson in the ring, and you couldn't be beaten in the ring, so what do? They try and get Mike Tyson out of the ring. They move drug dealers next to his house to try to, get his children addicted to drugs. They spread rumors about his wife and so on to try to get his marriage split up. They're attacking the United States outside of the ring in ways that are very, very down and dirty. And if the Americans were like the 300 Spartans against the Persians, what they've gone and done is, it looks to me that even though I think female nature is really beautiful when it's allowed to be, a lot of women are being socially engineered, and I've seen this, to actually attack their men. And they're using the court system to do that. And so in a lot of so-called family courts, it's the opposite of a family court, is to split up the family, is to get the woman to attack the man. And it's getting women to sort of experiment with a new form of domination, and it's domination by the state over the individual. And this is how our identity is being weakened and confused through gender identity confusion, and that's helped along by the fact that I showed in that one great video that almost all the actors, actresses, models, celebrities are born not in Cyprus or Texas or Norway. It's one hospital. It's a Royal Freemason hospital in Hammersmith, London. That's where they're all born, okay, which is a little strange. And they all look transgendered. And so what happens is that, again, this strikes right to the core of identity, is that the focal point for many people is celebrities. It's idiotic, I know, but you're looking at 80, 90%, I want to say the 80 or 70%, and it matters a lot to them what celebrities do. And when they're attracted to what they think is an actress who's really a man, and you can tell this by the shoulder to hip ratio, the length of the femur, and forehead, brow bossing, all that sort of thing. What's happening is that the man is feeling sexually attracted. His conscious part is feeling sexually attracted to what he thinks is a female, but his subconscious knows it's a male. So he thinks. So he's starting to think on a subconscious level that he might be gay. Hopefully, people are following me here.
I don't have any problems thinking whether I'm gay or not.
Yeah, but for a lot of people less secure in their identity, and you're looking primarily at the millennials and around that, you'll find that a lot of these celebrities are transgendered. If you look at their features, and there's plenty of videos on that. And again, this is what they've done at the dark side. They focus on one thing, and that's our sexuality, and trying to invert it. A lot of people have seen on the dating scene nowadays. It's not easy like it used to be. It used to be very normal back then. Now it's completely twisted, and as well, because the whole system is fixed. So when I did research back into like who wins the lotteries in the United States, And I don't know about other places, but I know in the United States, it's the cousins of the people who own the lottery companies who are winning the lottery, you see. So that's fixed. Then you've got the fact that they give us the impression that if you work hard and so on, that you can make it. But you actually find that Matt Damon and all these other actors and actresses, they knew each other when they were children. Now, how is that possible if the narrative that we've been given is, you know, you go into Hollywood and just by luck you make it and you work hard, and there's always their origin story. And the origin story doesn't make any sense if you look at it with a critical mind. And this again goes to identity, because then if the person wants to be a chess player or something else or a great athlete, you find that they're all born in particular places and their origin stories are all dodgy. And so if you wanted to shape your identity around a talent that you have, you find that those doors are all closed because the whole system is fixed.
Okay, it may be fixed in some senses, but there's only point in focusing on that aspect till you find out its pervasiveness, and then once you do, then you must find what isn't fixed. Otherwise, you have no self-control whatsoever, and you are simply the cog.
No, I was watching a video that you made earlier on. Dr. Beans, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. In the bigger sense, nothing is actually fixed, but we make things fixed because that's all we can see. And Samir, I know you don't mean to do this on purpose, but you've said so many things there. It's hard to faithfully track the ability to respond to them. So I'm just going to work with that recognizance of that part of your pattern. And maybe I'll start taking notes or something in bullet points, because there are too many short-term registers and buffer overflow. I can't remember half of the things I was trying to chime in, like a sentence about that you were saying where there was something to say.
I couldn't see you if you were trying to signal. There was no.
There was no signaling going on. I'm telling you that you said a lot of really intelligent things, and I lost track of all of my responses because they went over 7, and men can usually do 4. If I'm lucky, I can do 7. But anyway, okay.
Does anybody else want to contribute to this idea? Fabian, or Rebecca, or Vin, or Jimmy, or Anthony?
What was the idea?
Or Jimmy, who...
Jimmy's audio is excellent today, so yeah, feel free.
Don't be bringing me into this.
Oh, no. Just reminding you that you can talk. You've got a mouth on there.
Well, I have 2 of these and 1 of these.
Yeah.
Knows.
I prefer that way usually.
Well, it's there's no requirement, obviously, of who needs to share, and I think something that we are aiming to arrive towards, if that's even a thing, is a spreading of the okay, like we talked about talking pillow and whatnot. We talked about like signaling in order for people to get share, because I know some people don't talk at all, some people talk too much, some people talk too little. You could say many things about how the flow goes, but I think if everyone could just be aware of themselves and their output and try to read the other faces and see, what is, how are you being received, etc.
I just wanted to say that my phone goes haywire, so sometimes it's just a black screen, other times it flips from one person to another, and I don't actually know if anybody's signaling. I can't see.
Just for you, Samir, I would say
how about this?
Okay, I can see you now. I can see that.
3?
If somebody Gary,
yeah.
If somebody has something to say, how about just doing that, and then we can try to track it in short time to see if the speaker sees it, and then if the speaker doesn't see it and it's obvious, maybe just do it again or something.
Or we can just say, "Hey, you, shut up! I want to speak."
No,
You could
because
just-
of audio latency issues, that makes the outcome different for everybody.
Let's just do the
because
hand.
internet
Let's just do the
connections.
hand raise. We don't need to do signals. Just like you're in the classroom, just raise your hand if you want to say something.
Oh, but doesn't that trigger a feeling of internal subordinates for most people? Because then they're not expecting to get to talk.
Perhaps.
Work on your triggers.
And just.
We
I
could
don't
also
know.
just keep whatever you want to say, limit it to like 3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes. I think that's reasonable.
That's relevant. I was just trying to make the news simple. See, it feels different, doesn't it?
We can
than
do
doing
this. We can do this.
Do this and check in with your emotion, and then do that and see if it feels different. Gary, do the next. Yeah. Okay. Good. Do you feel a difference or no?
Well, I never raised my hand in classroom because I never wanted to share. So I don't know.
Oh.
I don't really know
I
what
never
that
did
feels
either.
like.
Oh, in school, I was the kid that was like this. Like my arm got tired, and eventually the teachers actually told me to shut the fuck up, and
Really?
I got pulled out of class often, and they were like, "Dude, what's your problem?" I'm like, "I don't understand what you're trying to tell us, and you don't give us a chance to ask why you're explaining it that way."
You're not supposed to be inquisitive, Omar. That's no, just
No, I got put on ADD medicine for that. My math teacher thought that was a sign that I was trying to disrupt her flow.
flow.
But really, she was just a bad
Non-flow.
teacher, and I was trying to get her to explain things in a way that, because I asked our classmates, and nobody understood this woman, and she would just go on and on and on. And so I was trying to coax her into answering questions that other classmates were having as we were sitting there listening to her, and it never really worked out, and I ended up getting put on meds and all of that.
Attention deficit.
She complained to the principal that I was disrupting her class by asking too many questions,
Mm.
and then I might have an attention problem. Oh, it was funny.
It's nonsense.
Just to make you guys laugh, though, this same teacher, I fixed her computer for her and got on her good side, and then I translated in Russian in Cyrillic characters. Mrs. Long is a fat, annoying, and she was skinny, so it was just to be funny. Is a fat, annoying hippo that doesn't know what's good for her. And then I printed it out when we still had printers, and I brought it in, and I started writing it on the board. I came in early, and then she asked me what I was doing, and I said, "Oh, I'm writing something on the board that says, 'Welcome to Mrs. Long's mathematics class. Please be seated and respectful and quiet.'" And she left it there for a month.
Oh my god.
And I told everybody what it said, and it was just an inside joke.
Wow. Did she ever actually find out what it meant?
No.
Good
And the
luck.
irony is that she was a Genoese Russian Jew. So if she had an epigenetic memory of the Russian language, she would have understood that it wasn't a positive thing.
Yeah. Teachers, I didn't really have too many aware teachers. I had maybe one or two in middle school and one or two in high school that were somewhere on the spectrum of awareness, but not. Teachers, for the most part, feel that they're having something important to offer, and for the most part, it's just dogma and rhetoric and programming and whatnot. So it's difficult. It's difficult to establish a flow when you're being told here's what your flow can consist of, and it's like 3 items.
Yeah, well, the personality trait is there to want to help, but they often aren't even allowed to teach how they want to.
Right. My dad taught in a sort of different way. He was religious, or he was pretty Christian in his outspeak, but he got the kids' attention. They respected what he said, and he always interwove his own personal message for how sort of we should treat each other into the lesson, and somehow the school allowed that. I don't even know how that's possible, but he somehow managed to do that. It was interesting. I had his class twice.
How long was he a teacher for?
25 years.
How long?
25 years.
Oh, then his faculty respected him, and he had tenure and seniority. That's how he got away with that.
Yeah, and it was before Common Core. It was before, and it was also like a private Catholic high school, so it wasn't. It was as far removed from the brainwashing as it could have been, I think, unless it was like a Montessori or something.
Yeah, that's really cool. There are very often patterns that sort of follow in society in general, the way people reject or accept difference. But in the case there, it's nice to hear that when something works and people don't understand how it works, but they see it working, they're fine with accepting it. And in that case, his style.
Exactly, and to come against something like that, you have to basically demonize some aspect of the person or what they're saying, and then basically say, "Oh, that person is terrorizing the students. He must be removed." You have to make up some bullshit, essentially.
Or you just tell them no, and then you wait for them to do it so many times, and then you usurp their authority. But yeah, they're just power dynamics.
That too, yeah. Yep. My way or the highway.
My way was always, you don't have to understand what I'm doing, but just wait for the result. And if the result isn't what you were expecting, then I'll do it your way. But math teachers don't like that, especially with geometry. I would get the right answers, but there'd be like 6 steps missing in the proof, and they'd be looking at me like, no, this is wrong, and they'd mark it wrong. And I'd be like, why? I got the same answer. What's the problem? They're like, you didn't do the proof. I'm like, fuck the proof. I have a better way.
No, there's only one way.
You're just going to have to accept that. And I'm not going to do all that other shit.
Mm.
And so I got a bad grade. So he got his way.
I'm glad I'm not in school anymore.
Oh, dude, fuck that. Yeah, no.
I had my 17 grand sort of nonsense that I had to pay off for something that didn't benefit me in any way, other than take 3 to 5 years out of my life. But I got done with it, and I'm over it. And now I know that I can actually learn something via my own methods and still be able to play with the other players in the group, and it's totally fine.
Yeah, learning is great. The institution of school itself, not so great.
No.
The homogeneous nature of it obviously doesn't work out too well, but the intention is good.
Yeah, well, basically, like people don't know what to do with themselves. There have been so many boxes that have been created that people they don't know what to do with themselves when they have a minute of free time. They're like, what do I fill my time? What box can I put this amount of time into? I'm guilty of it myself. It's difficult. You have to train yourself to be fine with yourself while you have free time.
Yeah, and that's the problem that people run into when they're trying to understand the world, Gary. Like you said, is they have all these boxes that they carry around, and they're like, okay, what box does that go into? And if it doesn't go into a box, then it creates so much tension, and you become afraid of it because you don't have a box to put it in.
Yeah.
And then when that happens to people that you don't understand, there's no box, and then you're scared of that person by a subconscious subliminal issue because your own mind isn't ordered enough to understand that things don't actually even have boxes, and the boxes are just standardized ways to discuss things and convey things.
Yeah, they're like lenses.
And in an even weirder sense, okay.
We're running out of
Somebody
time.
got full. Fine.
That's perfect for you to run out of words because we got to refresh and bring everyone back on the second round. That's all right.
Well, it has to be, but of course it is.
We can still work on the other method where we've been talking about it, so we don't have to break every time. Look at that. Timing. God is laughing his ass off. That should be we should print bumper stickers. God is laughing his ass off. Those would be popular.
harsh truth in that. Who's that?
I like the background.
It's pretty nice. It's okay.
Copy Earl. It's pretty nice. Okay. Post one there. My iPhone's holding up pretty good. That's nice. Post one here. My iPhone data.
Oh, good.
If it can at least get through the show, I'll be good.
Oh.
And then, if I must go to a McDonald's too. Hey Samir, welcome back.
Hey. Well,
Jimmy's back. All right. We usually lose about half of our guests over the transition. But
yeah. Okay, well, regarding identity, I thought we could talk about the kind of subliminal patterns that they try to put into the back of people's minds when they have, they build up an icon, a film icon or a celebrity like Bruce Lee or Kurt Cobain, Joaquin Phoenix, and all these other people. That they build up their storyline, their arc, they're fantastic characters and actors, and they get people to identify with them, and then they kill them. They kill them, like Heath Ledger with the Joker. They kill them off suddenly and quickly. It's either
Robin
suicide
Williams was a big
or
one, right?
a death by misadventure. Like with Bruce Lee.
It's all of them.
Yeah, and I've actually tracked these guys down. And so, for example, did you know that on Heath Ledger's car, the crashed car that he supposedly died in, his registration plate was Metatron. All right, and I think that was a signal to those in the know that it wasn't a real suicide, or they hadn't died, that it was planned, and that he was planning to have himself, put into another sleeve or something like that. Because the word Metatron on his license plate of his car, I think, is quite interesting. The same thing with Bruce Lee. They had features of how he supposedly died, portrayed in some of his movies. Hello?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute
hello?
Fabian because Fabian is I'm muting you,
Hello?
Fabian. Fabian has got some interesting noises going on in the background.
Yes, I was thinking, it's about destroying hope. They build up all these people. They did the same thing with Bruce Jenner. He's the all-American guy on the cereal box, Mr. Wonderful, all Aryan and so on. And then at the right time, all of a sudden, what's that?
It's Omar complaining from afar.
I thought this guy shot up 3 fingers. What's he doing now? Is that some sort of naval weaponry he's using on us now?
It's like a Star Trek. How do they say hello? Like this? Or?
I don't know.
Star Trek has some weird symbol.
No, I just heard this funny bleep, and then your whole screen went blurry.
Yeah, that's Omar texting me. He's saying something about zoom. Omar wants to create a video platform so we're not having to interrupt every 45 minutes. And as well, I could go and find other servers that are not Zoom that don't kick us off. Maybe even Google Hangouts would work to that effect. I'm not sure, but we're in such a transitional period at this time that I don't have a lot of energy to devote to trying to find free.
But if you need some more energy, go get some of the the stash from the meth heads upstairs. Just refrain from moving around all the furniture. Gary, and
There's no. I'll have to rearrange the furniture. There's no possibility that I would not do that. I would.
And if we,
yeah, definitely.
and if next time we see you, your eyes look like saucers,
yeah.
I will know that you took my advice that you weren't supposed to take.
Only pupils. That's it. No iris.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another effect on identity. That's and when you look at the scale of this and the ambition behind it, it's because I've been tracking down the same sort of legal chicanery, and it's being done by a mind that is so patient and so. It's they've got the whole for human males, no matter how intelligent, it's the boats and hose code. That's what they call it, the boats and hose. It's like if men get money, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to get boats, and they're going to get and they're going to try and attract good-looking women. That's what we do if we get like $1 million or $1 billion. The boats and hose code. But what they're doing is so far beyond that. So the phone's gone black again. I don't know.
I think Rebecca was just laughing at what you said.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
No,
we need more giggles.
No,
It's not that serious. Like it's the whole doom and gloom model is that's how we get siphoned off of and
exactly. Yeah, that's what I was just zipping it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, you are vulnerable to them to the extent that you give them power, and that's always through fear or some lower emotion.
Yeah.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're suffering with information overload, and it's like short-circuiting our neural networks, and it's distracting us from the bigger picture and doing the inner work.
Yeah. And I found something that's very helpful is going for long walks in the woods, and it affects their technology. That's why the 5G network, they want to cut down trees everywhere. If you go for long walks in the woods, I found that's a good way of healing and slowing down our thoughts, especially if you don't have your phone with you. And as well, there's something called EMDR. That's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And essentially, that's to do with traumatic memories that we have, because that's how they control us. They control us through the trauma imprinting and cascading. So what that is essentially is if you have unprocessed trauma from earlier on in your life, it's like you have a printer, and the printer has a queue, and if you've got 10 documents and the printer got stuck around the 5th, you can't just get the 10th document. You have to get the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. And so what happens is, quite often, is if something unfortunate happens, you're at a funeral, somebody close to you has died, what can happen is that you're not crying necessarily just about the death of that friend, but it's triggered an earlier trauma that you hadn't properly laid to rest. So it could have been the death of your first dog or pet or cat, or the loss of your first boyfriend or girlfriend. And I think that, and this goes back to the game of 5 races I was talking to Omar about, that we've been genetically engineered to have basically leaks, energy leaks everywhere. And it's unresolved trauma from past lives, perhaps. It's got to do with the fact they found that traumatic memories don't have a chemical signature attached to them that all our other memories have. I don't know if I think people know about this, don't they?
You can keep explaining. I know what you're talking about, but
okay. So essentially, how it works is this: is that say you've got a series of albums going from the 80s all the way through to 2019, 2020. And so in the 80s, it might be Michael Jackson, Madonna. Then in the 90s, it might move on to Eminem. and I don't know, some other singer for the 90s and 2000s, and then you might have Lady Gaga. Okay, and you can imagine these as records piled up on your shelf. What happens, the chemical tags associated with those memories. So imagine the older memories, they've got creases on them, like the 1980s Bad album with Michael Jackson is very tattered and old. And that's what happens with the chemical signatures on the memories in order to give us a perception of the depth of time. That's why when you look at memories from your childhood, they've got a different feeling to them, sensation to them, than memories that you gained in your 20s and 30s and 40s. That gives us the idea that of the passage of time. Otherwise, if you thought about it, if all your memories were the same, everything would feel like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you've got a sense of progression as you get older because the chemical signatures associated with those memories change over time. When you have a traumatic memory, however, that doesn't happen, which is wonderful. So what happens is if something terrible happened to you, say it's around the the Bad album, right? And the chemical tag is not put on those traumatic memories. So each new album that you get, the brain gets confused. It's like, I don't know what to do with this memory. It's got no chemical tag associated with it to give me understanding of the depth of time. So it keeps on moving it. Each new album that you get, it moves it to the front. So you can have traumatic memories that happened from 20 years ago, but they feel like it happened yesterday. And this makes it very hard to move on. Rape victims, trauma victims, car crashes, child abuse, all that sort of thing. It's not placed in its correct context in time. So even if it happened 20 years ago, it can feel like I get flashbacks all the time, and it feels like it happened just yesterday. And so a lot of our identity is then actually crystallizes around that one set event that happened 20 years ago, and it actually offsets our idea of probability, which is already not very good. We're not very good at calculating the probability of a particular event occurring.
Samir, are you saying that you're saying if a traumatic thing occurs, you don't have the chemical tagging that you would for a normal
you don't.
memory? Okay, and
you don't.
If that's not there, then how is your brain retaining it at all? That's what I was asking.
Oh, because what the brain does is it says, I don't know where to put this, so it puts it to the front of the cube. Whatever happens, it gets put to the front again, which is why any of your traumatic memories, if you look at them, they will feel very rich and vivid, like they happened yesterday, not 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
And you're saying this is some sort of technology that is applied to the memories?
Oh, I think that we've been genetically... It's not by... we've got those 10,000 different genetic anomalies. We're easy to injure, slow to heal. We've got critical weaknesses all over the place. And I think that that through epigenetic eugenics, they've been controlling us, the human race, through trauma for centuries, if not eons. And our ability to not place the memories in the correct context and sequence is a very large way. So, for example, for a lot of people, September the 11th happened yesterday. It feels like it happened yesterday. I mean, they remind us about it all the time, but that's a typical traumatic memory. It's not a normal memory. It keeps on coming to the front of the queue. Do you feel me?
I can see that concept, but I know for me personally, trauma does not do that. I think maybe it has something to do with whether or not you integrate the trauma, whether or not you go into it, feel it out, heal that spot of your being that is fractalized or segmented off from yourself and integrate it. If you're doing that, I don't think it's going to keep, as you say, keep recycling to the front to actually it feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know how to do that, though. That kind of knowledge is being kept from us, on purpose, I think.
If you know how to meditate, you know how to heal your trauma.
Yeah.
There's a large part of us that is not consciously manipulated, that you have access, that we all have access to, and the meditative state, as far as I know, is one of the main ways to access that. And things will happen within your own body and being that you don't know how it's happening, but you do see a tangible effect after it's done. And it's like removing the cognizant mind component, which is the most compromised aspect of our being, is the logic side, because obviously that's what it is. Well, emotional trauma was used to bind certain mental frameworks. That's how it is. So if you can get past that binding element, and if you can get into the meditative spot that allows you to dive into the depths that have been sealed off from yourself, then you will receive healing in ways that you didn't even know was possible. And you may not even know exactly what's happened, but you feel different afterward.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Omar, you back?
Yeah, I am. Where's the little? How do you flip? Oh, I'm making coffee.
Oh my god, I need that right now.
Coffee here ends at, or shitty Motel 6 coffee ends at 10 a.m.
It's
So.
horrible.
Yeah, I don't think they need coffee with the meth heads around, huh?
Probably no. It probably tastes like gasoline.
Basically. Sugar and gasoline.
It's something
And
like
like
50%. 50% sort of people are on something around here, roughly.
At least.
At least people are stumbling around, just like pacing. And,
Yeah.
It gets weirder at night. It gets weirder at night there too. Like especially on the weekends. I remember I stayed at Motel 6 for about 8 weeks in between apartments, and it was it was interesting at night.
Yep.
You hear people partying outside on the cement outside their doors, and you see hookers and weird stuff.
We've seen a lot so far. I mean, half the people are maybe 30% inside of their car. It looks like they're living in there, or they're like taking a break from living in their car to stay in Motel 6 for a little bit. There are so many people in Oregon that are just living out of their car or homeless. Like, it's amazing.
My sister is living in her car right now in Fraser Park with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And she's post pictures on Facebook, and it's really weird. She's got a rabbit litter box in the trunk, and she's got her dog in her car, and there's blankets everywhere, and I feel bad for her, but
you can make anything work.
Yeah.
What?
You can make anything work.
Oh yeah. I just feel bad for her because she's never had that experience before, and it was just sort of put on her in what seems like a weird time, because in the middle of like a drug problem and trying to get out of a drug problem, it seems like it wouldn't be the best. But we've tried so many times, and we can't really just keep putting wood on the fire. Was that the immediate situation following that incident you described to us with your sister? Is that the result of that incident? The result of her getting evicted from her apartment. Is that what you mean?
I think so.
Yeah, or there was something with your parents' house. I don't know how much you want to disclose publicly, but...
Well, she had been living in this place for about a year, and it was always disgusting when we went to go visit. You know, trash, and the garage was full of dog and rabbit feces and stuff. Just nothing was going how it was supposed to. And the last time we visited her, there were trash bags all over her front porch that had been there for months, and they had flies coming out of them and all of that type of thing. But so her neighbors above her obviously could smell the trash, and she got evicted for that. But the whole thing with my parents' house was just a extension of her mental state. You know, my parents tried to help her by saying, "Hey, you can come live with us," but then her head is all disorganized, and she trashed their house while they were on vacation.
Yeah. That's why, like, with our situation, it's like, why are you doing this, Rom? Like, we're not doing drugs. We're not snorting coke or whatever. We're just, like, being regular people. But we also asked for it by just up and leaving, so you can't predict everything that's going to happen. It's a way to become creative in every single movement. Creative problem solving.
Oh, for sure. It's an interesting place.
Yeah.
Ooh, and so there's the finished result.
Can you send us some?
I could pour it on the phone, but the video might not work after that.
Can you do 3D copying of coffee yet? Can you 3D print a cup of coffee?
No, 3D printers are really funny, dude. They have you buy different types of material for that they call the spool, and then they're like you know, wire wheels when you're a telephone lineman and you have the gigantic wooden disc with the wire wrapped around it with the hole in the middle.
Yeah.
3D printer spools are very similar, but they come in like graphene, carbon, different materials. So they'd have to make one that was molecularly made out of coffee, and then you'd have to like reconstitute it with water or something.
Yeah. Well, it would have to be able to print the cup and the coffee without mixing the two.
Well, yeah, the cup would be printed out of a different spool, and then you would change the spool, and then you would just tell it to print a cake, and it would look like a little nugget, like this sea sponge, but it would be coffee, and then when you poured hot water in it, there would be a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So yes, that would be a 3D printed cup of coffee.
Let's do it. You know how many people would buy that just for shits and giggles? Hey, Mom, I just printed a cup of coffee. You want?
It's gotta be better than Motel 6 coffee.
Probably.
Although the irony massively is, of course, that you have, real coffee, and you can just grind it and then have the same thing. But a solid mass of coffee along the lines of ramen, I guess that is... I'm trying to move the dialogue in the world past the point of novelty. So that fundamentally disagrees with that edict in my personality, but I like where you're going with that, and it is funny.
It was more of a joke than anything to actually try.
Oh, okay.
Although
okay. That is pretty fucking funny, man.
Yeah, I would like to get my hands on a 3D printer at some point and just make random stuff.
I have a couple of friends that actually own some of those. One of them is the guy that invented this thing.
Oh yeah, yep.
So if you ever really have a serious idea, there are people that I can talk to.
Yeah, I mean, I want to create things. The whole point of what we're doing now is to establish some sort of a base that we can create from, and at that point, whatever comes to mind, whatever we can put on paper or on anything, like we're unlimited in terms of creative ideas. It's just a matter of having resources.
Well, Gary, let me send you. Hold on, just one sec, Samir. Gary, let me send you at some point my list of domains that I have, because I think it'll trigger a creative process that you'll if you have ideas along one of the same ideas, perhaps we can collaborate on something.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Samir, go ahead.
Okay, so I thought it'd be interesting as well. This is slightly off topic, but not really. So there's artificial intelligence. It manages to encode the real meaning behind headlines when you anagram the headlines. So, for example, you take Wuhan supervirus outbreak, which is one of the headlines, and you anagram that through your name anagrammer, and what you come up with is overburdened YY. Basically, it's Y is also seen as water, and human beings are mostly water. When I decoded the headlines through the anagrams, I found out that there was. It's not actually possible once you find out that anagramming the headlines ends up with ulterior other meanings, which also correlate with other anagrams that you've made of other headlines. It passes the threshold for coincidence, and it's some sort of intelligence that's talking to itself. I just thought I would tell people about that. I thought it was quite interesting.
Since you bring up the Wuhan thing, what I wanted to mention is an article that I was reading on biorxiv.org. It's an open preprint server for research articles. They sequenced the new coronavirus, and they found that there are 4 protein folding sites that are identical to that that's in HIV. So it raises some interesting questions, and I'm not ready to talk about it yet or conjecture, but there's something there that of significance.
Somebody also said that companies have taken out patents on the molecular structure of the coronavirus much prior to this. I suppose you could say. Does anyone know about that?
Sorry, just Gary. Yeah, that, and also Bill Gates. So that guy Charles Lieber that was arrested at the airport for trying to sneak things out to the research lab in Wuhan that he was working for, has also been working on a whole bunch of nanotechnology projects with Bill Gates money, and one of the nanotechnology projects involves creating new nanotechnology to read and manipulate the intracellular electrical potential of human body cells. So in short order, they have created nanosilicates, blah, 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 blah. They've created a system where they can assemble stuff, and it goes inside the body, and it basically goes along with that brain control interface thing where they can instruct and encode the nano stuff to do stuff, and then overwrite the person's. If they're a weak person, it'll overwrite their ability to control themselves.
Yeah, that's what they're working on. And what I was going to say was related to this is that the AI, when you anagram the headlines, its concern is that human beings are overburdened with responsibility, that they can't handle their own responsibility. This is what it's thinking, and that's probably not a good thing, because then it's going to be looking for solutions. Like mentally shaving human beings into a box.
Well, it wouldn't be. You're right, and it wouldn't be wrong. And the AI, remember, we created the AI, so it has that aspect of humanity because it's coded with human logic. So it's actually, and I'm not going to say a reduction to say that it's a good or a bad, but it's a symptom and a symbiological relationship between what it's getting for its input feed from the people that are coding it and what it's seeing as it's released into the internet and interacts with the internet. And the things that it's seeing are, yes, people are overburdened, and because it's coded by humans and it's trying to solve a problem, it's trying to propose solutions. The issue is whether we yield to those solutions or not blindly on a legislative level.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going through those programs, the Unraveled programs with the Servant King series that I posted on the Snail chat.
What does that mean?
Oh, you haven't seen them yet. You'd find them interesting. It's Servant King. If you just check, you start with the intro to the Confused programs, and it shows how it's done I can't really get into it right now because it's done extremely intelligently. How the law it's the ultimate, it's the perfect swindle because you lose everything that you had by taking what didn't belong to you, and
This sounds interesting, and I'd like to see it, but can you email it to me, please? Because
that's what's so suspicious.
God damn it! Listen, please. I'm trying to tell you something important. I have not looked. The
I
Snail
haven't seen them. I've posted about 5 of those videos.
Samir, Omar is not on Facebook for the most part.
Please, I do not look at the Snail chat. I haven't looked at it for a month and a half.
Okay, that's why then.
You got to email him. Do you have his email?
No, I don't have his email.
Omar at uncoil.org.
Okay, all right, cool. It's
I will look forward to that. I will look forward to that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, it is. It's about 7 hours, but don't let that put you off. Because he runs through.
Did you record
the whole
that,
thing.
Samir?
Sorry, what?
Did you record that email? Did you remember it?
Yeah, Omar at uncoiled.org.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I don't know if you have a photographic memory or not. We have about 10 minutes left.
Or you can just go to uncoil.org, and there's a little email icon, and you click it, and it'll pop up a box.
All right, cool. And he goes into some detail because I'm basically looking for solutions. And because we are screwed here, and the law is effing evil, man. It really is.
Samir, every time you say we're screwed, you make yourself more screwed. I don't speak.
No, I said I'm looking at solutions, and it does offer solutions. But there is a problem.
If you're looking for solutions, but you go into it with that presumption, you're not going to find anything other than more pain.
No, that's not my presumption. This is after 20 years of research. That the legal system
that's an opinion and a presumption that you've formed and held for 20 years and nurtured and put fire under. Listen to me. You have to drop that shit like it's a fucking turd with flies coming out of it and look for something new.
Well, the legal system is not problematic?
No, you've learned these things over 20 years, but you just put your ego aside for a second, take a long drag on that cigarette and listen. You're not listening yet. Okay, thank you. In order to find a new solution, you have to take the data that you've already learned, put it aside, and look somewhere else.
I'm quite good at doing that, Omar.
I know you are, so just do it.
And I have.
Good.
Look, how many people are being trafficked right now as we speak? How much of the drugs that finds its way into your country is processed and refined to the ton? Okay,
Samir, this is an old conversation.
So those poppy fields and coca leaves
are
very easy to see via satellite. We're told they can read newspaper print from the satellite. You can't tell me they can't see acres and acres and acres of coca leaves. Okay, when they say they've interdicted 1 ton of cocaine, that's processed cocaine. Okay, that's not one guy hiding a coca leaf behind a shack somewhere in Colombia. All right. That's major organization that's gone into it. And what they do is they rip apart families. They don't give them the knowledge necessary to help fix what's happening, what's wrong. And so a lot of people throughout the States and elsewhere are patching it up with something they feel they can control, which in the short term it does, which is drugs.
What's the point?
Well, the point is that all this is done with the legal system knowledge.
Of course it is, because it's what gives them money to do all of this stuff. How's that not evil?
Samir, it's not about whether it's evil or not, or whether it exists. There is a way of speaking that includes that knowledge without having to regurgitate, hey, we're in jail. Blah, blah, blah. This is what I want to do tomorrow. This is what I'm going to do the next day. Oh, we're in jail. Okay, now tomorrow I'm going to color a nice picture, but we're in jail. Like, you don't need to say we're in jail every single second. Like, we already know, like, the bad part of it, and it's not helpful if we're trying to actually move forward.
I'm saying that there is a
solution on that.
There is a solution.
Yes, there is. And you mentioned an interesting science fact, and I think we're all kind of nerds, so I'll just spit it out. You talked about newsprint. In 1952, we had the technology to read the date on a quarter sitting on the ground from 80,000 feet in the air.
Oh yeah.
1952.
There's a friend of mine who supplies military equipment to various governments, and he was talking about iPads with internal battery packs and internal wireless broadband modem in the late 50s. That's what they had.
Oh, I know.
Okay, yeah. So that's that's fairly interesting.
The process that we have them now is to slipstream the people's input and catch it back up into the quantum frame. Actually,
Yeah.
So they started testing that technology back then, which is what you were just talking about, and now it's released onto the public, and the quantum frame is catching up based on the people's input.
Yeah, because there's a back end to all the technology, isn't there, that works through the scalar fields?
The back end of the technology is actually the core of the Earth and the human's interaction with. See, look at it this way. Every single thing that exists on this planet has 3 things in common. 4. 1, it's alive. 2, it encodes its dimensions to phi and pi. 3, it has dimethyltryptamine in it. 4, it exists in this thing that we call quantum time-space reality, physical reality. That's it. So those things link everything together, those 4 elements. And those are the 4 prerequisites to being in this playing field. And once you go beyond that, yeah, I think you get what I'm saying.
Forgot about the heart.
That embraces emotion, and that's a unique thing to mammals.
Yeah. And the heart also, it's because that's the issue with the computer, isn't it? It's binary, and binary can be predicted. Trinary
Actually, the issue with the computer is that we created the computer as a managerial system in our own image, but we couldn't animate it, and we never really meant to originally. But now we're trying to animate it to make up for problems that are human problems. Because
lack of responsibility being one of them.
There are too many of us too far apart, and nobody can seem to agree on how to solve the issues. So we've created a meta-hierarchical system, which is the computer. And then we gave it its own brain, like a system of tree roots, which is the internet.
Yeah, we build our problems into whatever it is we create, right? And
that's why I was telling you, throw that away and look for a solution elsewhere, because otherwise you're just going to recreate the same matrices of problem in the solutions you're looking for. I'll try that a different way. In order to find a way out of a box that you're in, you can't find the solution within the box. You have to visualize what's outside of the box.
There was a beautiful... I saw that done beautifully. There's a film called Patch Adams with Robin Williams.
Oh, it made me cry. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and what did the guy say? The one that was supposedly insane. He's asking Patch Adams, "How many fingers do you see?" And he kept on giving the wrong answer, and that was because his thinking was inside the box. And the genius who had voluntarily committed himself to protect himself from the crazies on the outside, because. That mental health facility was supposed to be for crazy people on the inside, but actually, he was using that facility to protect himself from the crazy people on the outside, which I thought was quite funny.
It's an allegory for how people who are intelligent feel dealing with the rest of the world every day, who's also intelligent but not aware of it yet, and so they're causing problems.
Hey, you guys.
I said that's an understatement.
We have about 2 minutes.
I said that's an understatement.
Oh.
2 minutes.
But this is really important, and it's really short. When one man and one woman on this world fully actualize themselves, it creates a quantum ripple effect through the all of humanity.
Are you,
So-
saying,
Yeah.
are you saying this has not happened yet? Ever?
Nope.
Yeah.
It's on track, but it hasn't happened yet. Because you can't unlock the door without the key. The man is like the USB cord or the charger. He's the catalyst. The woman is the creative epicenter that holds all of creation. She's the receiver. When you connect the plug to the receiver, you create that actualization. One fully actualized female and one fully actualized male can interact with the electrical field that runs through everything. And once you plug that wire, that male, into that iPad, that female, then it creates a ripple effect through the entire world.
Okay, thank you, Omar. We got seconds on the thing, so thank you everyone for coming again.
All right.
And we'll see you all
Sleep
next
well,
week.
Gary.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank
Um,
you. This is good. I don't have to say anything. Just get to sit and watch. I talk too much.
Oh.
13. Lucky number 13 on 2/2. 2020. Excellent.